Stick It to the Man, developed by Zoink Games, is a unique platform adventure taking place in a world of paper. No, not that world of paper. This one. Filled with strange denizens with detached heads, powerful stickers that can change the laws of reality, and a slightly twisted sense of humor, Stick It is a game that you may not play more than once, but also aren't likely to forget. But wait, Marcus, why are you reviewing a game that's been out since 2013? I hear ya. Originally released for PlayStation 3, Vita, and PC in 2013, it subsequently released on Wii U, PS4, Xbox One, and now recently on the Nintendo Switch. This review can be considered an overall review of the game, but will ultimately be focused on the recent Switch release. Copies of the game for PS4 and Switch were provided to me by Zoink Games, and footage from both versions will be used in this review. Unless specified, however, the footage used is captured from the Switch version. Stick It to the Man starts you off in a bit of a bad situation. Your character, Ray, is floating in space and about to die. Like most meeting their end, he recounts the events leading to that point, which for Ray started earlier that day when he was hit on the head. Shortly after his injury, he discovers a pink spaghetti arm emerging from his brow, granting him the ability to interact with the paper world around him in ways he never knew possible, including the ability to read minds. Using his newfound abilities to discover their source, an alien named Ted, who is taking refuge in Ray's head for both safety and comfort, he ends up hunted down by the Man, the shady antagonist bent on capturing Ted to steal his powers for himself. The paper world of Stick It to the Man is as vibrant as it is flat. A cardboard world with paper people and objects come alive with every chapter, with plenty of detail to look for hidden around each corner. Subtle jokes and references can be found everywhere in the foreground and background. The characters are all uniquely designed, with their horrifically detached skulls somehow adding to their charm. It's a unique art style to be sure, and only subsequent Zoink games have ever really looked quite like it. It's almost like South Park's Canada and Paper Mario really got drunk watching horror movies. None of this is a bad thing, though. After seeing hundreds of retro pixel art indie games, it's nice to see something daring to take an original attempt at something new. Once you get used to the way it's presented, it really is a wonderful thing to look at. However, there are a few performance hiccups in this new Switch release. In the first chapter, there's some issues with the blur effect in the background, most notably in the opening scene with Ray's co-worker, Wally, and one specific spot in the background on Ray's walk home. Also, the Switch version doesn't have the dynamic shadows the other versions have, including the Wii U. I don't know if the change was made for aesthetic or performance issues, but if for the latter reason, it makes this port a little disappointing when compared to its predecessors. There were also very small stutters in a few cutscenes when the camera would cut from one thing to the next, but thankfully these are only minor and unobtrusive marks against the whole experience. Stick It's soundtrack is one of the best features of the soundwork. Listen to the title screen for a little while and you'll see what I mean.
I woke up this morning with the sun down, shining in. I found my mind in a brown paper bag, but then...
Once you get into the game, the soundtrack takes a jazzy vibe which suits each scene and will have you tapping your toes. If you really enjoy it, it's even available on Bandcamp with a pay-what-you-want cost. It doesn't include the title screen song though, so you'll have to stick around on the main menu to hear that. Sound effects are plentiful and detailed to the point that there are some you'll never notice without specifically listening for them, and they add a surprising amount of depth to the paper world and its inhabitants. The most common sounds you'll hear are the ripping and slapping of stickers, but other little pieces like Ray scratching his head or the subtle clatter of bones from a dream pirate were surprisingly pleasant to discover, adding another form of detail to pay attention to while playing. The voice acting in Stick It is crystal clear and well delivered, which is important for how much humor is implanted into the dialogue. Ironically, the voice work never sounds stiff like cardboard, and each voice actually fits the character connected to it. A good majority of dialogue is presented in the form of thought reading, and is just as vibrant as the regular dialogue. The thoughts also tend to be a majority of the dialogue that can be heard more than once. If you missed a joke or clue in a regularly spoken portion, you may not be able to hear it again, but most of the information you'll need to solve the puzzles can be reviewed in a thought. Any version of the game on a system with a speaker in the controller will play mind readings through the controller speaker, but those without will play them from the main output with the rest of the audio. The controls for the Switch version are fairly straightforward, but the game requires a full controller of some sort to be played properly. Whether this be a Pro controller or a set of Joy-Cons is entirely up to you, but there isn't a single Joy-Con support. Ray mostly moves left and right, and there are limited areas of inward and outward movement as well, sometimes necessary to navigate closer to a sticker needed. There's also plenty of jumping with minor platforming challenges. Mostly though, the gameplay uses the spaghetti arm to grab stickers, slap stickers, and read mines. It can also be used to grab pins for reaching otherwise out of reach areas. Reading mines can provide puzzle hints, release details about some characters you are interacting with, or produce stickers to rip and use for other parts of puzzles. Some of the most common you'll find are the Z stickers for putting enemy agents to sleep, or raise face to distract them while you slip by. Most others are all elements of puzzles you'll solve to make progress through each chapter, ranging from fire, targets, dead mice, famous mouths, and even precious memories. It gets a little weird, but each piece fits together and affects those around you, or sometimes even you directly, and it all helps you get one step further to completing your goal. The story experience of Stick It to the Man is a great one, but since each puzzle is solved in only one way, the game suffers from the same affliction many point-and-click adventure games suffer. Once you've played through it once, there's really nothing else. You know the answers, so any subsequent play experience is numbed by the lack of discovery. The first time through is hilarious and wonderful, I can attest to that, but it's hard to play again when you know all the answers. The chapter screen keeps track of the number of mines to read in each stage, but if you were properly exploring everything you could the first time through, there are most likely not many that were missed. With no DLC or direct sequels to speak of, Stick It doesn't have a lot of replay value. The Switch version doesn't add anything new to the game except for the ability to play it on the go, which Vita players already had. All 6 of them.
You're funny.
This is actually a tough review for me, as I have very high regards for this game. It was one of the first indie games that I ever purchased for Wii U, and some of the unique control presentation for that version was the reason I wanted it. It was also the very first game I ever live streamed on Twitch, doing a sort of live review of it. Unfortunately, that was before I knew how to archive my broadcasts, but revisiting this game for this review helped me see a lot of the things I didn't see before back on Wii U. While Stick It to the Man is a gorgeously unique game with plenty of humor and interesting presentation, the game itself suffers from a very linear progression with very little replay value. I definitely recommend it be experienced at least once in some way, form, or fashion, and if the Switch's ability for portability appeals to you, then this port is more than sufficient. It is a faithful conversion that only seems to lack some of the polish previous versions appear to have, but all the wonderful audio and unique presentation is all there. If you have other console options other than the Switch, and portability isn't a major selling factor to get you to play the game, I'd recommend any of the other previously available versions in order to get the completely polished experience. Either way, you'll experience a wonderful story with some of the most unique characters ever seen in a game. Stick It to the Man for Nintendo Switch gets a 3.5 out of 5. Thank you for watching Raven Review. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share it around if you want to see more. Check out some other videos I've done here, and be sure to catch me on Twitch when I stream Monday through Saturday at 8 p.m. Follow me on Twitter at MarcusRaven86 for stream announcements and updates, and as always, thank you for playing, and I'll see you next game. Bye-bye!
Space. Final frontier. That's what it's called, right? It's beautiful, endless. Feel the warmth of the sun millions of kilometers away on my skin without any atmosphere to stand between us.